Hello, this is Fire Emblem, and about a month ago I made a video wanting to Iron Man the entire Fire Emblem series. And last night I just beat Fire Emblem 4, and so far I have beaten every game on the first attempt, and would just kind of like to give a small update on how everything's going. This is unscripted, so I might get a little rambly or miss a thing or two, but right now I started Fire Emblem 1. I mean, it's not too hard of a game. It's a game that's very much a slog to get through, very slow movement speed, same map theme every single map except the end. It's not held up great, but fairly easy game. A lot of deaths in the end game because I can't reposition units, and there's a ton of just 10 move enemies with silver weapons, so I had a bunch of deaths at the end, but the run was never really in danger. Beat the game, no problem. Fire Emblem got in, I actually did have a bunch of deaths and a few close calls. Now, there is 6 survival springs you can use, which helped a ton. But the closest I got to Wapping and Brine was in one of the Celica Act 3 maps. I don't know what the devs were smoking when they made all of the Celica maps, but Celica's route is probably like the least fun I've ever had in a Fire Emblem game. It's so bad. The swamps, deserts, boats. The worst maps you can think of are all in Celica's route. So it was one of the castle desert hybrids. I forget exactly which one, but there was one map where I just got stuck. It had a Dreadfighter boss, and there was a Cantor that just kept summoning us over and over and over. And it got to the point where I was just impatient, and I just started sending Catria in, I sent Pala in, and long story short, I lost almost my entire Celica army. And Volbar, out of all units, clutched it out and was able to carry Celica's route, until I was able to make it back to a revival fountain and get Catria and Pala back, and then I also recruited S and Sonia right after. But I almost lost the run. I was so close to just losing it. And Volbar, out of all units, saved me. Like, super unexpected, and I have a new appreciation for him. So when you get to Fire Emblem 3, Book 1, I mean, it's pretty similar to Fire Emblem 1. It just cuts some content. Some things are changed a little bit. The one thing about Fire Emblem 3 Book 1 is the wyverns, well, not wyverns, the fire dragons are all piercing damage 1-2 range. And that did make some of the later chapters, like chapter 24 and the final map, a little dicey. I should have just warp skipped chapter 24, but I didn't, and that was a complete slog. I ended up losing more units than I wanted to, just trying to Ulm. Like, I wanted to Ulm Tiki, and then I lost Merrick on the way, so I Ulmed Merrick, but Merrick took one of my warps to the grave, and it didn't come back. So when I get to the final map, I have 1 warp use. I can't reposition, because I can't reposition in any Fire Emblem until 6, which is crazy. But I had a close call on the final map. I had like 3 units left at the end, but I closed it out. It wasn't that bad. In Fire Emblem 3 Book 2, which is this regular mystery of the emblem, it's not that hard of a game, but there's a lot of times where I was just like, oh, this unit's invincible, I'll send them out. So I would send Pala out, and then without even realizing it, she was in range of 4 Draconauts instead of 2, like I thought. So I lost Pala to a really stupid turn 1, I lost Fina to a turn 1 because Marth missed the Worm Slayer on a dragon, and then, what else? I lost Catria on a really stupid turn 1, I had a lot of dumb deaths in Mystery of the Emblem, and stuff like I was mentioning, dragons are just really annoying, especially the flying ones in like the desert map. 12 move, 1-2 range piercing damage is not fun. Really, that was the main difficulty of Fire Emblem 3, was just on race away into dragons. Otherwise, it was a pretty easy game, even though I lost a lot of the best units in really dumb ways. And then Nosferatu started Spirit one day, just kind of carried the rest of the game. And Sheena, of all units, got the final blow on Media, so that was really funny. So then we get into Fire Emblem 4, the first, truly, game I would say is good. And that's the game I've had background footage of the final chapter running. And you might have noticed I almost lost the run at one point during this. But Fire Emblem 4 is a game I've not played through in probably about 7 years at this point. And I've obviously never Iron Man. I used battle saves back when I originally played it. So I was a little nervous about going into this one, even though it's one of the more easier games. And you know, Gen 1 is... I mean, I had Deathless Prologue, Chapter 1. I accidentally baited out the Ava crew, and she ended up killing Quan, Chapter 1. And when Quan leaves, Eflin leaves with him, so right away I lost my mounted healer and Quan. So it's like, oh, well, that's unfortunate, but that's okay. And then, which by extension, that means I can't inherit anything on the Leaf, and he was going to have terrible bases in Gen 2. But... so then, later in the map, Jamke kills Midir trying to bait him out, so I lost another playable unit to an enemy. And then, in the next map, I lost Beowulf as an enemy, because he was in range of Sigurd, and I didn't realize it. But then I had no more deaths. Well, Aideen died, but I used my one Valkyria for that. So, Gen 1 went pretty smooth, except when we get to the very end, I had been trying so hard to get Luwin and Tiltu. I know her name varies on translations, but I was trying so hard to get them paired so I could get Forseti Arthur in Chapter 6. I really wanted Forseti right away. And then at the very end of Chapter 4, he automatically paired with Sylvia, which meant Forseti goes to Corporal, a level 1 priest that joins Good Ways into Chapter 9. So right away that screwed up one of my big pairings, and also I was going to limit the Valkyria to 1 per generation. I think it's a little cheesy to use it multiple times. I mean, it does cost 30,000 gold, so it's not free to spam it. But I thought it would have been a little bit cheesy to use it the full game anyways. So I was going to limit it to 1 time per generation. But because my pairings got screwed up, I couldn't do Clyde Sylvia anymore. So I couldn't even bring the Valkyria into Gen 2. So right away in my Gen 2, I got most of my pairings kind of fixed up how I wanted them. And I mean, I got Sigurd to pass everything down on the Seliph so I could just get promoted Seliph in Chapter 7. But I had some flubs, but we move forward, get to Gen 2, Chapter 6. Very easy, obviously. Seliph just snowballed out of control, and he almost promoted beginning of Chapter 7, but Larcy activated Astra on the boss, so as a result, I did not have promoted Seliph going into Chapter 7, which is unfortunate. So, the big thing in Chapter 7 is this is where kind of the issues of Gen 2 really show. Like, I really like the first generation of Fire Emblem 4. And then in Gen 2, you start seeing a lot more sleep saps, a lot more siege tomes. There's like more adept on bosses. There was still Pavas, that was an issue in Gen 1. But the first kind of real, like, how do I say it, like, something that can go really bad in an Iron Man is Shannon and Patty are just at the mercy of one RN. If this is a later game, 2 RN, they'd be completely fine. But Shannon has to dodge, I think, like, at least 10, like, 16 or 17% hit rates. And my Shannon got hit by 2 really early on. And he had to dodge so many hits at, like, 10 health. But he made it through. He actually lived, which I was very surprised by. Only for a few turns later, for the boss to just kill him. There's the boss, I think his name was Ishtar, it's one of Ishtar's brothers. But he has bolting adept, and he had like 20-something attack speed. So with bolting, I think his chance to activate adept was like 8%. So I sent Shannon in with Balmung because the hit rate was going to be so bad. I didn't factor in his leadership stars, so it was actually like 35 instead of 5. But basically, he gets hit by a 35, the boss activates adept, and then he gets hit by another 35, and I'll just lose Shannon, just right there. So I'm just like, great, how do I make it past this boss that has adept that can 2-shot anybody, including Seliph? So I started to make like my charm user sound, and then I realized Dermot has Nihil, and he lives on 1 health. So eventually I realized that, but before I realized that, I sacrificed Arthur, and then I almost lost Leafy. And then eventually I made my way down and Seliph killed him. But really scary boss, like, do not like that guy. And then this is where my devs really started. I killed off Arthur, so I couldn't recruit Tinny, which is whatever. And then Finn eventually died because he was underleveled, and a mage just decided to go for him instead of Leaf. And then what else? Yeah, those are my 4 deaths in chapter 7. So then chapter 8 comes along, and that one goes smooth. No deaths or anything. And then in chapter 9, I don't think I could recruit Altena because I lost Finn. I might be wrong on that, but I don't think I could even recruit her. But even if I could have, in the spot I was in, I had to kill her. She could have adapted Eris and seized my castle and descended to Iran. But, so I lost Altena, which is a bad loss, but okay. So then my Leaf was so far behind. Like, he got no item inheritance, his stats were the lowest they could be because Quan died so early. Like, he was rough, but I really wanted him promoted. So I gave him the Paragon Ring, I grinded him up, got him promoted that map. And in one of the, like, 40-something wyverns that comes in Arion's squad, I sent him to help out Hannibal in a castle to fortify. And then I had him use a Link Slayer on one because I was just tired of seeing the attack animations and just wanted to clear him out. But I miscounted spaces and he couldn't cancel onto a Butch. So like 3 turns after I promoted him, he just died and lost my Fortify, Paragon Band. I lost a lot of stuff on him. So I got super tilted. I rushed Arion's squad, not even thinking about his miracle. So then Arion kills, or his squad killed Lester, and then Larcy, and then a bunch of other close calls. It was a mess. So then chapter 10 comes along, and it went pretty good. Like, I used Hannibal as a sacrifice, so Julius and Ishtar would just leave the map. And then, who else? I lost Fee at the very end. So there's that final Arvis squad that shows up in chapter 10. And you really need the tier thing. Like, it gives 20 plus res, 10 plus speed. Like, it's massive. It is so good. So I send Fee over to just slowly whittle down the sorcerers chasing Paulmark and his citizens. And in doing that, I accidentally put her in range of a Bona, and she died. So I was struggling very hard. And eventually, I did save Paulmark. Barely. Because the AI thankfully targeted one citizen before going for Paulmark. So by one turn, I got the tier thing. And 2 deaths into that map. So then we get to the final map, and it starts off pretty smooth. And then as the map goes on, there's just death after death after death. Like, Faval died trying to fight Ishtar. Eris unexpectedly lost to the I think the Death Lords that are below Julius. And then the most crucial error I've had. I was so stupid right here. I could not believe I almost Fruity Ron at the very, very end like this. But I had Seliph going to kill Manfroy so I could get him back, recruit Julia, and just finish the game. And in doing that, I wasn't even paying attention, and I just threw Seliph just right in range of the Hell Mages, which all had 0 hit on him, which is like, alright, cool. Now, when I wasn't paying attention, I put him, like, 2 spaces from Manfroy. And Manfroy has 4 leadership stars, which are 10 hit and avoid each. So every Hell Tome went from 0 to 31. And Manfroy can attack with Fenrir, and he can proc Adapt. So, basically, Seliph gets hit by 31% Hell, and I think that is shown in the footage in the background somewhere later on. He gets hit by, I think, 2, but only matters if he got hit by 1. So he's on 1 HP, and Manfroy attacks him with Fenrir. 47% chance. I freaked out. Look, I would have been so mad if I lost here. But, basically, actually, somehow Seliph dodged. And I went on to beat the game with like 3 more deaths because I ran out of silences and Julia killed like 3 or 4 of my scrubs. But I went on to beat the game. Really, really like Fire Emblem 4. Gen 2 is a bit of a pain at times, but I do like Fire Emblem 4 a lot, and I'm very excited to get to Thracia. I might start it later today. But, yeah, going back to my original list I made, I had like Fire Emblem 1, 2, and 3. I think I had 1 and 3 and confident I could do them first try, which thankfully I did. And Fire Emblem got in like the second tier, which had a few closer calls than I wanted to. And also, I forget if I mentioned it, but Godin is not aged well. The final map, I think, is really good. I think it ends strong, but Celica Act 3 and 4 just tanked the game so hard. But yeah, I had Godin in like the second tier of difficulty, and I did first try that as well, with some close calls. And then I had 4 in the kind of iffy tier where I was like, I don't know how well this is going to go. And thankfully, I first tried it. Even though I almost lost at the very, very end, I clutched it. Oh man. Good game. I did not want to play it all the way through again, though. So, that leaves me with a few more games. Way more than a few more. But Fire Emblem 5 is next, since we're going in order. Fire Emblem 6, I really want the true ending in. And Fire Emblem 7, I want to recruit Geats instead of Wallace. And I also want to recruit Carla. So I want to do full recruitment in that game to add some special stuff to it. In Sacred Stones, I don't know if I'm going to do plus 20 or plus 30 enemy growths yet. Plus 30 might be a little bit overkill, but I'm still thinking about it. And yeah, it's just kind of want to touch base on how the runs are going. I'm having a lot of fun with it so far, especially now that I'm fresh off Fire Emblem 4 and not the first 3 games, which haven't aged perfect, but they're part of the series history. So yeah, I just wanted to update you all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.